Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to A Story Called Fighting. My name's Angelo, and today what we're going to be breaking down is the Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munhoz knockout that occurred when Pedro Munhoz outmaneuvered and outsmarted Cody Garbrandt in their fight that happened, I believe it was last year when Cody was coming off the 2 losses to TJ Dillashaw. So we're going to be breaking that down today, getting into some technical stuff, going over some analysis, explaining why it happened, kind of revealing Cody's bad habits, if you didn't already know what they are, and what he's going to have to improve on if he wants to be a champion. Funny enough, he actually did make some of these same mistakes in the Assunção fight, even though he won. So we'll see if he improves on them or not. If not, don't know if he'll ever be champion again. If he does, though, well, I'd say he's got a good shot because he's a hell of an athlete and he's fast as hell. So I can pull up my phone here. I'm going to be breaking it down while I show you guys on the screen, so it should be interesting. All right, so this is the beginning of it. They're both lined up. They're almost kind of sort of in a mirrored neutral stance almost. They're both lined up with each other's right hand. They're both orthodox fighters, so this is kind of interesting. Not the most smart way to start, not the smartest way to fight or start an exchange, but it is what it is. So Cody, this is when Cody has improved since then, but this is when Cody really had the bad habit of just like keeping his hands at his hips and really just winding up on his punches. Which you will be able to see some of them. Some of them are so fast they're very hard to see, but some of them, once you get a read for him, you're going to be able to see and capitalize on. So we see him starting to wind up the right hand here, dropping it. Now Cody is coming into his, kind of bread and butter here, his big hook where he leans, he loads up on the hip and then he leans to the right and just throws it with as much power as he can, using the rest of his body as a slingshot for his right hook. Now, Pedro, as we see, is lining up the same punch. He's lining up a hook as well. Right now, his isn't coming from the same low angle, but there's a key thing that he's going to do here that's going to allow him to catch Cody and not be caught himself. We're going to check that out. So here we go. Okay, so as we see, both punches are about at the same distance from each other. Both would have landed if Pedro did not move his head out of the way. This is the key part. He moved his head with the hook out of the way, whereas Cody threw the hook and still kept his head in the middle, whereas Pedro moved, ducked with it. So this way, Cody wouldn't be able to hit him. And he was very smart. He saw this coming. He saw Cody's hook coming. He's like, oh, I'm going to catch him, right? Now, this is where you can stand, in the pocket and trade if you're going to be smart about it, if you're going to move your head. Cody stands in the pocket and trades and has a bad habit of not moving his head and dropping his hands, which is a recipe for disaster, right? So Pedro moves his head out of the way, which allows him to evade Cody's big right hook and land his own. He throws almost sort of a hook / overhand. It's kind of a combination. It's very nice, though. We see it lands, boom. We see the impact. Cody's stance still is pretty solid, knocks him back a little bit, and then he comes back with the left hook. They both came back with the left hook, right? And as you see, they actually both landed. Pedro did make a mistake. He just went straight into his left, whereas he should have rolled under again. He made a bit of a mistake. He just went straight into it instead of, rolling under this punch and then rolling under that punch as well, or stepping out to an angle and throwing it. So they both caught each other there. Which is interesting. Key thing to note, they actually both have the inside position on each other, which means both of their right hands are going to be lined up with each other. So at this point, it's really going to be who can get to the punch faster and who's got the better head movement, because they both have the same foot position. So things like head movement, like I said, speed, timing are really, really going to matter, since there's not really going to be the movement aspect of the feet involved here. So let's keep going. And now we see they're both a little bit rocked. They both come back, right? And they square each other up again. Like, let's do it again. Why not? And now this is funny because and this kind of shows you the fight IQ of Cody. I think he has gotten better and smarter since then. I did a breakdown of him versus a Sun Tzu, which you can check out. Rafael Sun Tzu. He still does some of the same stuff in there and still does have some of the bad habits, but a lot of them he's gotten rid of, and he's a lot more patient. Because this here, what happens next is just a bit of lack of intelligence on Cody. If you got rocked doing a certain thing, throwing a certain punch in a certain way with the same angle, you don't do it again. And he does it literally the same thing again, which is indicative of someone who's not really thinking. They're just getting caught up in the emotion of doing, right? It's just he gets hit, then he wants to hit you back, which is never really good. So as we see here, they go again. Pedro sees that Cody's going to do it again, so he's like, well, I guess I'll do it again. So he goes again. He moves his hand out of the way. Cody does not. Keeps his head on the line, on the center line the whole time. Boom. Pedro actually lands first, but moves his head enough out of the way to the point where it evaded Cody's shot. And this one was flush on the jaw. And put him down, as you see, just falls straight into Pedro and gets TKO'd from there. So what are the main takeaways? What allowed this knockout to happen? Well, it was Cody's emotion getting to him, just literally wanting to stand into the pocket, drop his hands, keep his head and jaw out and on the center line without moving them, and just try and knock his opponent out, which is never a good thing to do. You can get away with it for a little bit, but eventually a fighter will catch on to what you're doing, as Pedro did. And Pedro just moved his head out of the way, and that was all it took. Just a little bit of head movement. He was able to throw with the same punch, with the same power as Cody, basically, but not get hit because of his head movement inside the pocket. So it'll be interesting to see how Cody's next fight goes. I don't know when he's going to be fighting. Pedro just lost to Frankie Edgar, so he arguably could have won. That was a very, very close fight, but it'll be interesting to see how their next two fights go. They're both high-level fighters. But that is an analysis and breakdown of how this knockout went. So if you're ever fighting on the inside with someone like this and you choose to stand there and trade, make sure you move your head. Make sure you move your head. So, yeah, that's that for today. My name's Angelo. Like I said, this is a story called Fighting. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video. If you didn't, well, I guess you could not subscribe or not like it. I don't know. That's up to you. But either way, hope you enjoyed, and I will be back with more. Until next time.